Just to say, Jayne, I think you said you're talking about my goals on Tracer, to assert dominance. My goal was to stop feeding. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. So stop being embarrassed that you die like a pleb, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, today normally we'd be going into viewer Q&A, but today we thought it'd be more interesting to do another one of our sort of panel discussions. So we did one a couple of weeks ago talking about the Overwatch 2 changes, and that was a very interesting discussion. I enjoyed that one a lot personally. But today I wanted to bring to the table the concept of setting goals and the importance and the goals of setting goals, the importance and like everything that goes into setting proper goals. Because I don't know about you guys, but when I've coached people before, there's a lot of people who simply just like want to be better, but don't really know how to isolate the steps to get there and what it really means to set a goal like that. So I thought this would be something interesting and beneficial for us to talk about. So just to set the field a little bit, why goal setting is important is, I mean, it seems pretty self-explanatory, but goals, both setting and achieving them, as well as working towards them, are incredible motivational factors when it comes to developing skills. Without a distinct goal in mind or a distinct purpose for your training or for whatever you're doing, it's extremely easy to lose focus and fall into bad habits, fall into stuff that's easier for you to do, fall into what is more fun to do in the moment instead of being able to rely on that framework of why you're doing a task, what you're trying to work on, what the end game is, these kind of things. There's tons of psychological studies and papers out there about the benefits of goals and like what goals should look like. I want us to talk more about like our specific histories and sort of more opinions on this area, and of course specific to Overwatch in the way that we've seen goal setting work, the way we've approached our own personal goals, or from a coaching perspective, how we've assigned goals to our students and things like that, so that people might have a better idea of how to approach these kind of problems and what sort of framework they should be looking to build when creating their own goals.
So something that I have, or at least my favorite coaches that I've always worked with have been people who have said this, or as a player at least, have been people who have said, "Hey, this is what I want you working on for this next week." And it's like, this is, and this is why you're working on it, and this is how you're going to get there. And then everybody on the team had stuff like that. And so if I fucked something up in scrims, or it was like the coach, or like I did something really weird, the coach would come in sometimes and be like, "Hey, no, it's okay. He's working on this thing. Like that's okay." And that's, and I think part of goal setting for me that has always been important in my experiences with it has always been not just that something vague, something amorphous, but it's always been very, very specific, because it's always get better. It's always become a better player, right? If that wasn't your goal, like your big goal, then why would you even be trying to improve in the first place? It's unspoken that your goal is to become a better player. That's just how it works. But it gets really complicated when you start to, or it gets a little more mucky, I should say, when you think about exactly what that means to you. So my biggest experiences with goal setting have always been like, why am I doing this? Like, yeah, get better, okay. But like,
to what end?
To what end? How good do I want to be? Why do I want to get better? Like, why do I care? And answering that question for yourself has always been something really, really important to me. And the answers change all the time. It's not just like a very simple, specific thing. But I've always broke down goals as like big motivator, step to that motivator, and then break it down to 50 separate steps. So it's like, I want to get to Overwatch League. Okay, that means that I need to do well in this tournament with my team so I can get scouted. Okay, what is my team struggling with right now? And then you break it down further and further and further and say, I need to work on this specifically, because you have that big motivator goal, but if you only focus on that big motivator goal, then you're going to trip over your own feet, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had tons of students I've worked with specifically come to me and was like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I feel like I should be GM, right? I play Overwatch X many hours a week. It's like, why am I not improving? It's like, okay, your goal is simply be better, right? And that's fine. That's simple enough. That's good motivation. You want to be good at something, of course. But if you can't dissect it further than that, it's really hard to find a really strong direction.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
I tend to see stuff like that come up a lot of the time where people have some sort of kind of object level goal, or when they want to kind of do something to show off. It's like, they want to be better, not because they want to be good at the game, but they want to just like feel good that they're like top 1% and that they're awesome. Like maybe they don't even like playing the game. They just want to kind of have some sort of evidence showing that they are better than other people, better than almost everyone else, because you're Grandmaster, you're 99th percentile, right? You're the top 1% of players in the game. So people generally, when they're wanting those kind of goals, they're wanting goals, but they want those goals without putting any effort in, right? Because like they really just want a badge on their chest. They don't want to be the kind of person that they need to be in order to be Grandmaster. They just want to be Grandmaster, and then that will give them the fantasy of being the kind of person who would be Grandmaster. So I see this a lot in not just in goal setting, but people trying to figure out their own desires and their own wants and their own drives and their own interests and impulses and all of those things. Is that it's really important, at least when you're doing about this, not to have things being shoulds, not feeling like you should, not feeling like somebody else thinks that you should, or anything like that. It really needs to be about doing. Like it's like want to do, want to actually act, because that's going to be what compounds into some sort of results. And really, if you do have this some sort of goal setting, because some people are talking about goals being, it can be fulfilling, it can make you happy when you achieve your goal or something like that. But like achieving the goal is a singular thing, and then you might feel good about it for like the next 5 seconds or 5 days, but that feeling of accomplishment wanes very quickly, and it's on to the next
Mhm.
thing. So I think that it's important to be kind of seeking that happiness and contentment and fulfillment as you are progressing towards a goal, um, which it is at least to me more about the process of acting or the process of taking action rather than seeking something in the future or seeking something that you don't have. So I think that's kind of more of my perspective on this.
First of all, I think SR goals are really, really bad. I
Mhm.
think saying I want to hit a certain goal is bad because you don't actually think about the thoughts in order to get there, or even if you say you do, you don't really because you stress over winning. I think they're bad. Don't do SR goals, kids. Not even once. But this whole idea of how do I make a like in this game that's so incredibly complicated, like how do I make a goal for myself that I can properly measure? And I think those very specific things, Deadly, like never engage a fight without recall, that is a thing that you can look at and say, yes, I did that properly this game, or no, I did not do that properly this game. But in setting those goals for yourself, it like I feel like it requires, why would I not make SR a goal? It is measurable, because you don't control it. It's not the same thing as doing a 10 kilometer it's you
Yeah,
don't control your
you are
SR
not the
goal.
only factor.
However, I do believe, statistically speaking, good players do climb. If you are a good player, statistically, you will win more games than a bad player, and you will climb. But if you make your only goal to win games, then you're just gonna fucking trip over your own feet like your
Mhm.
shoelaces are untied. Um,
Yeah, not to
yeah,
mention
Build on
put
that.
really unnecessary pressure on yourself.
Can I build on that?
yeah. Go.
Absolutely.
What?
Awesome.
No, Jayne, you can't.
I've been holding back. Okay. So I agree with Gunther that SR goals aren't good. So I just want to like preface this just in general in that I'm not a huge fan of the SMART goals acronym. And the main reason that I'm not a fan of the SMART goals acronym is that it was originally developed for part of corporate development and project management. It was meant for use in institutions and organizations. And I think that the key and most important part of SMART goals is that there is no part of desire, want, motivation that's nowhere in there, And personally, for me at least, one of the problems that I have when I'm trying to set a goal or do something is that there are too many possibilities, and I really kind of like need to narrow that down in order to actually take action. So when you say that like you have a goal of 2,500 or you have a goal of 3,000 or anything like that, that's like a translation of just like you want to improve, right? And it's like yes, everybody wants to improve. That's a universal drive. We all want to be healthier, happier, wealthier, and wiser. We all want to do that. That's just universal, right? So you wanting to be a higher rank than you're currently at is not giving me any information as a coach as to kind of what player you are. And where it's like, I would see kind of what Deadly was describing about like wanting to get or like having the goal of it's like saving recall when you engage. I would almost treat that as like an objective because it's like that's something that you're improving. Is the goal to like win more duels? And are you want to win more duels because you enjoy asserting dominance over other people and proving that you're better than them? In that case, that's your goal, and your objective is, well, in order to accomplish this goal, I need to do these different things, these objectives of, better tracking, better positioning, better communication, better scouting, better cooldown management. All of these are different skills that you consciously build up in order to accomplish the overall goal. So I think that if the goal that you have set to yourself loosely translates to I want to improve, it's not enough information and you haven't kind of looked into what your goals and motivations are too deeply. Now, there is certainly a limit to how deep you should look. There's root cause analysis. One of the more famous ones is called 5 whys. It's like, so if you set the goal of, what was the goal? Hey, I've got the goal to climb to 2,500, right? You want to climb to 2,500? I will say why. You will give me a new answer. So I will, like, whatever you answer to the question why, I will just ask why again. If you do that 5 times, just end there. The end is arbitrary because you can have just explanation recursion where you could ask why literal infinite times, but at least ask yourself it 5 times and see where you end up and see if it gives you a better answer about that. So agreeing with Gunther that ranked goals are bad because it's kind of like if everybody wants to improve, if you're telling me that you would rather get to 2,500 than continuously improving, that means that at some point you're going to be okay with being good enough or being mediocre. And it's like, why would you be okay with that? Right? And it's like, you don't have to improve until you're the literal best in the Overwatch league or anything like that. But, you can improve at other things. Overwatch does not have to be the tool with which you develop yourself personally or anything like that. So I think that's good enough for a rant.
Yeah. Just to say, Jayne, I think you said you're talking about my goals on Tracer, to assert dominance. My goal was to stop feeding. So
yeah. Oh yeah. So stop being embarrassed that you die like a pleb, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, yeah. So that's
Yeah.
the ultimate goal, right? Or that's the terminal goal. And one of the I forget there's 2 types of goals: terminal goals and blank goals, which I can't remember, but I would consider things that are not terminal goals to be more of like objectives. Is all.
Deadly. I don't know if you've ever experienced this as a player, but there was a moment a while ago where I had to like look at myself as a player and be like, my current goal is to stop dying in every team fight, even the ones we win. Like that was the thing. That was the thing that I had to be like, holy fuck, I am just dead.
just
Like all
running
the
it
time.
down. Yeah.
I'm just dead.
Dude,
And we're winning, but I'm dead.
Yep. Yeah. I've experienced that recently. I've been scrimming more, and yep, I've got the opportunity to play against some very, very good teams and some very, very good players, and I'm just like, holy shit.
Yeah. I think that just bringing it up because we were talking about kind of stop dying or stop feeding or something, because this is also gonna, I think more recently this is kind of a category that has become more clear to me when I'm dealing with students, is that there are some people who want to not lose, and then there are some people who want to win. And I think that it is much more to work on the goals that you want to win, right? That's going to be kind of like, not all of your goals around improvement have to be around winning. They can just be selfish goals, like I want to do this because it makes me feel good, right? You can just have those. But if you want to have the highest, like the most competitive or the highest performance goals, they have to be more than just not losing or not being bad. You can't really have you want to have awareness of your flaws and your weaknesses, but not insecurities around them. Because if you can play the game on your terms, or it's like if you want to just duel because you like dueling and you become really good at dueling and forcing the game to become about duels, who the fuck gives a shit if you're bad at this other thing that you just make sure is never relevant? Just like really making yourself kind of the edge, the cutting edge, and then playing that way. So I would also, for those, I know that not everybody in the chat is going to have goals that are around competition and performance, but if you do, make sure that you're not training out insecurities and they're actually training, working on, and really supercharging your strengths.
Hmm. I mean, more than anything, it's just make sure you have a reason for doing things, right?
Yes.
That I
Yeah,
guess
that
that's kind of life.
aspirational.
Yeah. And yeah, and when it comes to any of these areas, we are coming up to our hour, so I do want to start winding down a little bit. But yeah, just to sort of recap a lot of the stuff, we've talked about a lot of different areas around this, but to keep it specific enough to our community, which is based around Overwatch and based around improvement and things like this. When it comes to setting your own goals, like first step before even thinking about improving is always being honest about with yourself about what your motivation is for improving or for whatever it is you're trying to do. Maybe you're just playing Overwatch because you're trying to get your character border all the way to platinum or something like that. But whatever the reason is, you need to be brutally honest with yourself. Otherwise, it's going to come back further down the road and sort of poke holes in your master plan, where all of a sudden you're not motivated enough to keep up with all these practice regimens or goals or things like that. But if you can be honest with yourself from day one, you'll be able to more realistically set your own goals, be able to put yourself on a reasonable timeline and all these things, as well as feel good about yourself for attaining things that are within your reach.
Yeah, something. Sorry.
Yeah,
something
go
that I was kind of thinking about for a little while, and just in terms of that, is this idea of self accountability. That, like, at the end of the day, you are the only person who knows what you are thinking all the time. You are the only person who is there in your head, knowing exactly what's going on, and truly deep down, you genuinely know if you're lying to yourself, even if you don't want to admit it. You know, there's a tiny part of you that's like, that's not true. And sometimes, as shitty as it is, you have to make that tiny little voice a really big shout, because only you know if you're actually doing things for the reason you want to be doing things, and if you're doing things with the actual purpose that is needed to actually do them.
Also,
Because
if you're not
otherwise,
sure whether or not you're lying to yourself, say it out loud. Words sound different to, well, words feel
Mhm.
different to say when they actually carry meaning. It might sound kind of fluff, but I
No.
assure you it works. Just say it out loud if you're worried about whether or not you're lying to yourself.
Ganbate,
Yeah.
do your best.
Gambate.
Ganbate.
Never give up.
So yeah, I think that's a pretty good spot to leave things. I don't even know if I told you guys about this, so this might come as a bit of a surprise. But one of the reasons I wanted to hold this discussion was not just because I have had a lot of questions from students about goal setting in all these different areas, but because we are actively also trying to launch a new program that might help people in this area. And what we are coming up with and what we are going to be rolling out in its sort of alpha test soon is a sort of buddy system where we want members of our community to be able to connect with each other, connect with other members and things like this, to be able to talk to each other about the goals they have and be accountable not only to themselves, but to someone that they match up with in that sense. So there'll be a bit more of an announcement about this tonight with more details, but expect a ping in our Discord for all our members to potentially sign up for this program where you can set your own goals, consult with some of our staff to maybe tailor your goals in a bit stronger of a direction, as well as pair off with someone else in the community to help realize those goals.